Attention. Go.
And we're away in the Town Challenger Cup. Leander Club on the left of your screen. Stanford University, USA on the right. Hello to those of you joining us internationally from the US and Australia. We've seen those. And the Netherlands, they've been the international crews that we've seen racing this morning.
Yeah, lots of international pedigree crews racing today, but this is going to be an interesting one. As you can see, the gusts of wind already going across the course, and we know how tricky it is for these smaller boats to keep their sails on station, so there could be lots of activity from the umpire in this one, but it looks like Stanford have got a solid start and taken a slight early lead on the Leander Club crew here. Well, not much in it, really. Very close. Great effort from that Leander Club crew to go out and give it to these guys early on like this.
Great start here from both crews, locked together, both looking to establish their dominance in this race early. They're really locked together, stroke for stroke here.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? It's almost quite confusing sometimes when the crews are so close to each other and you're in one of the boats and you can sort of sense the rhythm and the noise coming from the other boat, and it just looked like Leander Club just had that slightly higher rating and are just trying to push out and just get a bit of a foothold in this race early.
Yeah, we would expect the Stanford crew maybe not as high rating, but we think that where they will be strong is through the middle and second half of this race particularly. But Leander, a really brave effort here to put themselves into the race. They're still very high rating. You can hear them calling out. They're looking to really establish an early lead here, but I think they're going to find it hard when they transition onto their race rhythm to hold this steam train from Stanford at bay. But let's see how the next few hundred meters roll out.
Yeah, you can sense that, can't you, from this crew on the near side of the screen here, Stanford. They look quite calm and they look like there's quite a lot of power there, and they're not having to use too much rate to do that, to match Leander, who are just, they look really racy and look like they really want this. But it's, as you say, will they be able to hold that all the way down the course? We know this crew from Leander Club are very racy, and they've done a lot of really great domestic international racing this year already. They won in Duisburg, they won Henley Women's Regatta, and they also won in Hollenbecker the last weekend. So they've been going out there and getting some really great race experience. So that's going to prepare them as best they possibly can when they come up against a strong crew like this from Stanford. God, look at that wind on the flags there. It's really blowing across the course, and you can even see it on the umpire, the launch boat. That flag's being swung around from side to side.
Yeah, tricky conditions out there. You can see some of the boats moving across and up and down the course. They create a little bit of wash as well, all those pleasure craft moving up and down along the river. All of these elements are what make Henley, as we see there a steering call from the umpire, just warning Stanford to stay on their station.
So it gets pretty gusty, doesn't it? As you come off the island, as you can see, there's a lot of river. It's a very wide patch of the river there, and there isn't much tree cover on the left-hand side of the shot until you get right, over onto the bank, and that's quite a long way from the course. But now, as you come through the middle here, as you come through towards the halfway marker, the Forley marker, the river really closes in, and you can see these trees a lot closer, and that will give them a lot more shelter before we then come into another area where it opens out. So enjoy this water while you can, really.
Yeah, and a decisive move here from Stanford. It looks as though they have managed to turn the tables on Leander. Leander really looked to take it out, which, if you know you're coming up against a crew of this quality, it's sort of your only option, isn't it, to really take it out and see what happens.
It's a race of your life, you've got to be super up for it, and I know this crew will be. Chatting to Richard Chambers and Ross Hunter earlier, they knew this crew they knew this was their marker to really test themselves against a top quality international crew. And I mean, credit to these girls at Leander, they've also been doubling up in the pairs as well, and half the crew went out yesterday, the other half are still in the competition this afternoon. So there's a lot of emotions to manage there around, like being out of one event but still in another, and trying to manage some effort for the race coming up. But they are going for it, and this has been such a good race down the course, this one, hasn't it? Look at this. But Stanford finally started to edge through and beginning to punch through here, aren't they?
Yeah, we've seen so many tight races this morning. It's been really exciting. But Stanford now just with the lead over Leander Club.
think that's it, isn't it? That's where they've just managed to crack them now, isn't it? Just this latter third of the race course. Be interesting to see how Leander can respond to that now, because it's so hard when you have a crew that's just been sort of lurking behind you and they just start to sneak through, as to sort of how do you deal with that mentally and then try and find a way of holding on to your rhythm and trusting that you can get back into the race.
So we've been mentioning the calibre of this Stanford crew. Annika Jeffrey in the 2-seat. Last year she was world champion in the Cox 4 for the USA at the World Championships. Bill Battistoni in the 3-seat. She stroked the US under-23 women's 8 and were world champions in Varese. And Louise Bachmann in the stroke seat under-23 silver medalist in 2021 in the quad for Germany. But Leander Club, really impressive performance here. A crew of this calibre from Stanford, and they have not let up all the way down the track. They've led them for a big chunk of this race, and they're still holding on. So can they turn this into a bit of a dream situation as both crews move back onto their stations, both drifted towards the middle and now correcting. And this is looking like a bit of an overcorrection from Stanford. They'll have to be careful here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as we come into the enclosures, you get all that noise and all that excitement. You can see the greenery on the right-hand side of the shot now. That's where it's sometimes a bit quieter, less spectators, but then you come into the stands and the noise hits you, and then you can sometimes find a second wind. And will this be enough for Leander to get back on terms and take the lead again?
This is a really tight race, and Stanford are struggling with their steering. The home crew buoyed on by the home crowd. Is this going to be enough for Leander to find something, or is Stanford going to hold the narrowest of margins? They're coming down to the line. What an upset this will be if Leander can get this race.
That's fantastic to come from down again to retake the lead. Well done. That's very, very good work from them to take back to this. Oh, look at this.
Stanford really struggling with their steering. That's having such an impact on their boat speed. As they come down to the line, what an upset here for Leander Club to take this round of the Town Challenge Cup.
Oh, that's an amazing achievement. They'll be so pleased with that. And even watching the launch there, the coach, Rich Chambers, wasn't letting any emotion out there. He was having a very good poker face there, but he'll be dead shocked with that. What a race. What a race. Really kept us on our toes the whole way along. We thought maybe it was going to swing to a bit of a Stanford walkaway, but it was, oh, wow, that second half really came to life again.
Haven't we seen some upsets already this morning? You can see the steering. Wow, Leander looked like they were lucky not to hit the booms there, but Stanford, as the rate came up, were really struggling to stay on their station. A huge correction, and I think this is where it cost them. That is a big correction, which Leander were able to capitalise on, get themselves back into the race.
Because that correction, it's you know, it really can upset the rhythm, can't it? And it starts the boat swinging from side to side. And if you end up clipping the water, you can really lose that momentum and that sense of rhythm, can't you?